All right, everybody, welcome into episode 64, Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. This, as it says, episode 64, um, recorded on Valentine's Day Eve, February 13th, 2023. And it's one of the saddest days of the year, the first year, our first day for many months that we will have no football, at least no big time football. I know we got spring football coming up, but it's not the same. USFL, XFL, hopefully they do well. It ain't the NFL, it ain't college football. But we have, alas, reached the end of another professional football season. I'm Nicholas Hill, live as always from Chattanooga, Tennessee, the United States. And joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil is Gustavo Tomazeli. Gus, how are you?
Doing good, honoring the city of the champions. It's not the Chiefs, it's the Royals. That's my only KC shirt that I have, but I'm honoring the Super Bowl champs. Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs for their championship. We're gonna talk a lot about how they do it, the ways they beat the Eagles, and also looking forward to another off season of NFL. And I feel like, and let's get the cat out of the bag, talk about the holding call. Like, that's the feel like that's the big controversy of the game, right, Nick?
Yeah, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I think it was the correct call. I mean, the hold. I mean, I forget who the player was that was holding, um, but James Bradbury. But you can tell there was two separate occasions on that play where he was holding Juju Smith-Schuster on that play. But I mean, here's the deal: that play did not individually lose the Eagles that game. It was the fact that they couldn't stop the Chiefs the entire second half. I mean, they literally could not get a single stop in the entire half. And that is why the Kansas City Chiefs are the champions today. Because remember, the Eagles dominated the time of possession this entire game. They were up by double digits at halftime, but they could not find a way to get off the field. And it wasn't like, a traditional Kansas City Chiefs win where Patrick Mahomes was running for free, 400 yards, throwing the ball over the field. This was a very much a dink and dunk game, a run the ball game. Isaiah Pacheco, I thought, had his best game of the season last night. I mean, he looked phenomenal down the stretch. And the Eagles I mean, it was just very uncharacteristic for them to get kind of diced up in the run game like that. I mean, Pacheco, for example, had 76 yards, 15 carries, had 6 yards a carry, very consistent. Jerick McKinnon had 34 yards rushing in this game. Patrick Mahomes had 44 yards rushing. And it was really crazy because the Chiefs outrushed the Eagles. The Eagles are the best rushing team in the league. Jalen Hurts obviously was great on the ground last night. But look at what the three running backs did. Kenneth Gainwell, 7 rushes, 21 yards. Miles Sanders had 7 rushes for 16. Boston Scott had 3 for 8. After the first drive, they really couldn't run the ball outside of Jalen Hurts. And that was remember, that was like one of the keys of the game that kind of had coming into here. Could the Chiefs force the Eagles to be one-dimensional? And they kind of did. Now, I do have to give the Eagles this. Jalen Hurts was phenomenal, and he definitely silenced, I think, any doubts I have about him moving forward as quarterback. He is a legitimate top 5, top 10 quarterback in this league. And I should have never doubted him. But I did have my doubts because I wasn't impressed with him in the NFC title game. There was times this year where I really wasn't extremely impressed with him, but he was impressive last night. And obviously, A.J. Brown was phenomenal. Devontae Smith was phenomenal. But their rushing attack kind of let them down there in the second half a little. And I especially think there's 2 drives. So the Chiefs go down. They score on the first possession. It's 24-21. The Chiefs get the ball back. They're grinding clock. Jalen Hurts is getting third down conversion after third down conversion. But they get down towards the red zone, and they couldn't punch it in from there. And that really, I think, is truly where they lost this game. Now, some are going to point back to the fumble that Jalen Hurts had that Nick Bolton picked up and rushed back for a touchdown early on in the second quarter. But that was really the moment in this game where you're up by 3 You have the ball for over 8 minutes. You're keeping Patrick Mahomes off the field, which that's the best defense against a guy like Patrick Mahomes. Keeping him off the field, burning clock, churning clock. If you really sat down and watched this from start to finish, this was a really fast game, especially considering the score, because both teams were really good at keeping possession. But the Chiefs couldn't convert. They had to settle for that field goal, and that changed the entire game because then the Chiefs came back, scored a touchdown, and then when they're down 28-27, Philadelphia couldn't do anything with the ball, down 1. They get it back down to 8, go down, score a touchdown. But at that point, you've let Patrick Mahomes get ahead of you in the possession game, and they just couldn't find a way to get it back because even Patrick Mahomes, even on a bad leg, still is mobile and popped that 26-yard rush in the last possession. And it sets you up to be in that position for the holding call. But if you had just found a way to punch it in earlier, you wouldn't have been in a position where you needed to stop him there on that third down.
And I feel like my understanding of this game is that the Eagles' defense weren't tested before last night's game. I feel like that was kind of something that they weren't prepared, because I feel like their NFC adversaries in the playoffs did not test them. The fight.
Think about the last good offense they played. The last good offense they played was the Cowboys.
Yeah,
the Cowboys were at 40.
Yeah, and there were the Cowboys in Dallas. So, but I feel like I was thinking about this. I feel like the Eagles were 1 year ahead of schedule. This team should have been in the Super Bowl in next season, but they got the Super Bowl because they got a really good, easier path, probably in like 10 or 20 years. If you compare, the NFC champs, the last year's NFC champs, the Rams, they had a way harder path than the Eagles had.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about what their path had. They had to go for the Cardinals, then they had to go to Tampa Bay, beat them on the road, and then they came home against a 49ers team that actually had a quarterback. The Eagles got to play the 49ers without a quarterback. Doesn't mean the Eagles weren't deserving. The Eagles clearly were one of the top 2 to 3 teams in the entire league this year.
No, yeah, that's what I'm going to say. I don't say they don't deserve it, but I feel like the path they had in the playoffs got them probably 1 year ahead of schedule in the playoffs. If they probably would have faced a harder team in the playoffs, probably they want to make it. But it's like TCU. They made it to the national champions because they defeated all the teams and they chalk all the boxes.
I don't know if that's an apt comparison because Philadelphia should have won this game. TCU had no chance against Georgia.
But I'm only comparing the road to the big game, not the big game itself. There's 2 things: the road to the big game and the big game itself.
Well, TCU had to upset Michigan. Like Philadelphia would never really had to upset anyone to get to the Super Bowl. I still don't think that's the most apt comparison because honestly, I don't know. There is a comparison there for sure. But the Eagles definitely were much more ready for that stage than TCU was.
No, yeah, and that's true. But a lot of people, the Eagles had an easier path. They played the teams they had to play. They got the finals. Of course, they probably were better comparing to their adversary in the big game than TCU were to Georgia. But all I'm saying is Kansas City Chiefs been there before. They were their third Super Bowl in 4 years. Yeah. Comparing to the Eagles, there are a lot of, first Super Bowl for Nick Sirianni, first Super Bowl for Jalen Hurts, first Super Bowl to a lot of Eagles players.
Oh, absolutely. But I don't think this is going to be their last with this group.
No, definitely not.
Especially if the NFC doesn't get its act together. Because, honestly, who's going to be the biggest threat to the Eagles next year? If the 49ers can keep a quarterback, maybe them. If the Cowboys can finally stop choking, maybe then. Honestly, who I would put up in that category? This might be crazy to say. The Lions. Because if the Lions play the way they did the last 2 months all year next year, that's the NFC North champion next year.
But how about the Rams? I feel do you are they really done? They were really one and done.
Well, if they can stay healthy, I think they should be way better than they were this year. But I don't know if they can really recapture the magic of last year. I don't think they're beating the Eagles. I don't think they would beat the 49ers. Um, I just the team I have the feeling about is the Lions. And I feel insane for thinking that, but I am feeling Detroit next year. Just watch out for the Lions.
And how about Green Bay Packers? I mean, and we're gonna talk about the insanity of Aaron Rodgers, but they're gonna have to make a decision somehow. And we'll see about that. But in terms of the matchup, the coaching matchup, again, what have I told you? Uh, Veteran coaches versus young coaches. What did I tell you?
And the veteran coach won.
I mean, in the biggest stage, it's hard for a young coach to, and because, and again, I know Nick Sirianni deserves a lot of praise, but Super Bowl they have a longer halftime, so even if you're trailing or not playing a good first half, you have a longer time to redesign plays or even to re-scheme and to find you know answers in the second half because Super Bowl is such a different game. You have a halftime show, so it's taking longer to the half takes longer than in the NFC Championship and divisional round.
Yeah, I mean that certainly is a good point. And you really have to think back a long time to think about the younger coach winning one of those matchups, because we said the longer halftime, just the bigness of that stage, the
Yeah.
massiveness of that stage. Because I remember there's a comment that Greg Olson made pregame where he said, in this game, in this moment, you're just waiting on it to start. And I think it takes a veteran coach to navigate a team through that. And even like throughout the game, I think about the Falcons blowing the 28-3 lead and how I think they let the moment get away from them. How they didn't realize, okay, we got to still zone in. We got to play really good football the rest of this game to win. And instead, they started thinking, oh, how are we going to celebrate the Super Bowl? I feel like the Eagles, especially on defense, were already thinking about how they're going to celebrate their win, celebrate a championship.
I don't see them being cocky. I'm just thinking the veteran coaches, especially like Andy Reid and Bill Belichick, that been there before. They know the ways to adapt in this such a big moment, and when you've been there before, you ended up getting more kind of ideas and even coming to this game like, hey, okay, I have one way for the first half, or I had another way for the second half. If things doesn't, it's like adapting, and it looks like veteran coaches know how to adapt better in the Super Bowl than young coaches.
Yeah, I mean, it's the big stage under halftime. That's what it that's what it comes down to. And Andy Reid, I mean, just I think about what this means for his legacy because for a long time he was seen as a choker, as a guy he couldn't win. Now he's got 2 Super Bowls, more than the Eagles. Um, I mean, I think this solidifies him as a top 5 coach all time, one of the greatest offensive minds ever to do it. I mean, we've seen what he's been able to do with Patrick Mahomes. I, I mean, I think he's one of the top 5 ever. I mean, he's clearly not above Belichick, but after Belichick, like Bill Walsh, like Jimmy Johnson, people like that, he's in that next tier all time. I mean, he's definitely
Chuck
solidified.
Noll,
Yep, Noel, it's another one.
uh,
Don
Land,
Shula,
Tom Landry,
yeah, Lambo,
Vince Lombardi.
yeah, yes, that's who I meant to say, not Lambo. Well, McCurley Lambo was a long time ago, um, but I mean, he has to be like at least top 10, 15 all time. And if he can win some more, he's going to go up that list very quickly. I don't know how much longer he's planning on coaching, but I feel like he's in a position right now where he wants to coach as long as he can because he has probably the greatest quarterback talent of all time with him.
It's like, do you think Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, like, do you think is the Michael Jordan um, the
Phil
uh,
Jackson.
yeah, Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson duo better? Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, or Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes?
Well, I do have to say that Belichick and Brady did beat Mahomes and Reed straight up. So, and they have 6 rings together. So Mahomes and Reeds do have some work to do to get to that. But obviously, last night was a huge milestone for him to get there. And I'll say this game for Mahomes is interesting because if you look at the stats, he only threw for 182 yards. So it wasn't like he was throwing the ball downfield. But if you really watched it, he really didn't get a lot of help from his receivers. I mean, Travis Kelce was really the only consistent threat that he had all night. And he still kind of willed his team through it, really put them in the right positions, really found a way to get through, to put his team in the right positions. And I mean, just really showed that poise and really was willing to put his body on the line. I mean, there was a point there in the second quarter where he took a shot and he was in pain. I mean, he was basically almost in tears. That's how much pain he was. But he came out and he just toughed it. I mean, it's one of the toughest performances you'll ever see from an athlete. It's up there with the flu game. It's up there with Kurt Schilling in 2004. It's one of the all-time performances in terms of toughness.
And I think it solidifies Mahomes now in the conversation of greatest quarterbacks of all time. Now he has to be there, along with Brady, along with Bradshaw, along with Eli Manning. The clutchest. Not I don't say greatest, but clutchest.
Yeah, I mean as I've said, I think Mahomes is the single greatest quarterback talent I've ever seen. Obviously, Brady has 7, so you got to find a way to catch him. I think he's ahead of a guy like Rodgers. He's definitely better than Eli Manning. I think Peyton Manning did it so good for so long. I think that's going to be the determination of truly where Patrick Mahomes ends up all time. How long can he keep this going? He has been consistently great now for 5 years, since 2018. If he can keep it going through the rest of this decade into the 2030s, then he may be the all-time GOAT. It kind of reminds me of, like a LeBron James, and we're going to talk about him later. But one of the things that makes LeBron James so amazing is the fact he's still playing at an insanely high level nearly 20 years after he was drafted. Can Mahomes play for that long? I don't know. I mean, we saw how Tom Brady was able to play at a high level for an extremely long time.
But interesting though, you talk about Tom Brady. He had the first few years in the league, he had very successful. Three titles in 4 seasons. That was remarkable. But after that period, it was a 10-year drought. So if you remember that, there was a 10-year drought after the 3 titles in 4 years, in 3 titles in 4 seasons.
And here's the thing, compared to what Jalen Hurts is going to have to face, Patrick Mahomes is going to have to earn it every single year because Joe Burrow isn't going anywhere. Burrow is only going to get better every year. Josh Allen isn't going anywhere. John Payton, Russell Wilson.
No, and you have now a good duo with Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence now in the AFC South. All 4 divisions in the AFC have at least one really good quarterback, if you think about it.
I mean, and most of them have more than one really good quarterback, or at least the potential to have more than one really good quarterback. I mean, we still got to wait to see what happens with Derek Carr and Lamar Jackson. I'm very fascinated to see what happens to them. But
if I was Derek Carr, I would have gone to the NFC. I feel like it would be better for his career. He would have found a better path. He would be more appreciated if he would have gone to the NFC.
You know where I would go, truly, if I were Derek Carr or even Lamar Jackson? Washington. Washington has a really good offensive skill players. I mean, they got Terry McLaurin. You have Johan Dotson. You have Antonio Gibson. You have a lot of talent at offense, and the defense has a lot of talent too. And I know it's going to be hard to win a division in the NFC East, but you can go to the wild card. I mean, Washington was close to going to the wild card this year. I mean, Washington's a playoff team with a really good quarterback.
Yeah, Carson Wentz is done there, so that's true. But
go with Sam Howell.
What?
A unless they want to really go with Sam Howell, you know.
And I feel like the urgency of Ron Rivera to find a quarterback is really, it's something interesting because he has to, like, if he doesn't go to the playoff next season, I think he's fired. I don't think they're gonna have too much patience with Ron
Yeah.
Rivera.
Or you could go to an NFC South team. You know, I mean, the Bucks obviously need a quarterback. I mean, the Saints. You got Chris Olave. I mean, Chris Olave is the best one of the outside of Garrett Wilson is probably the second best rookie receiver in this class. He needs a quarterback in front of him.
And we're gonna have plenty, and we're gonna have a lot of weeks of Two Countries to America's All Sports to discuss these, because I think it'll be one of the most interesting off seasons in the NFL. All the scenarios, and I want to kind of save those discussions for later because we're gonna have a lot to talk about over the next coming week.
Yeah, because I mean, tonight is about the Chiefs and the Eagles, and I mean, what a great game that they put on. And Reed, Mahomes. I will say this though, this might be a hot take. I don't think Mahomes should have won MVP, even though it was a tough performance. I think it should have been Nick Bolton. He returned a touchdown. He had like 9 tackles. I mean, he was great on the defensive side of the ball for the Kansas City Chiefs. But I get it. It's Patrick Mahomes. I don't necessarily blame him for going that direction. But I'll also say I know he lost, but shout out to Jalen Hurts. I mean, what a performance. What a performance. I mean, he really proved himself last night, both as a passer and a runner. And also, I will forever I'm not going to say dislike you. That's harsh. I don't know who you are. But I will forever really question how you ever got an NFL GM, John Robinson, because A.J. Brown was phenomenal, too. And that was painful to watch.
Do you think now forever the Titans fans are gonna feel pain every time AJ Brown performs a great game by the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean we already do. I already was mad week. I mean, look. I mean, think about this. I remember the Eagles played at 1 p.m. against the Lions week 1. We played at 4:25, and that was already mad heading into the Titans game in week 1. So I'm like, I just had to watch AJ Brown throw up like 3 touchdowns against the Lions, and then we go out and lose to the Giants, and that just set the tone for the entire year.
Yep. I mean, that's why. I mean, that's why the GM was fired after the loss to the Eagles. That was the clearly expose. There's
absolutely.
But in terms of, I feel like it was a good game. The end was weird. I did not understand the last play the Eagles had. I don't understand. I feel like teams have to be better prepared when it comes to the situations of Hail Mary kind of thing. Like, we've seen very poor plays on the Hail Mary situation. You saw the Dallas Cowboys doing that, whatever that was, in the divisional round. Eagles also, couldn't put it together. Like, teams have to be better prepared when it comes to a situation like that.
I mean, think about the Patriots back in the regular season against the Raiders. And what happened there? Remember, they threw the ball, tossed the ball around, and it got picked up by the Raiders. Raiders took it the other way for the touchdown and won. I mean,
yeah, that's true. Like, that was the. I mean, and that's an idea for a show. I feel like best plays and worst plays of the season. We categorize a lot of the worst plays, and probably I put in the top 10 that last play the Eagles had, because what was that? Like, they didn't do a lateral. They were playing like it was like a 3rd down and 8 with 5 minutes to play in a 3rd quarter of a regular season game. It didn't feel the urgency of that moment. I felt like in the last play of the Eagles.
Yeah, it didn't really make any sense. Like, because Jalen Hurts, I mean, I don't think he could make that throw ever. So it's just, I don't know. It was very weird.
Why? I don't understand why teams didn't pull it off more like a lateral, like like what the Titans did against the Bills.
Yeah, I think they should have tried something on the kickoff.
Yeah,
they only had 8 seconds. But they kind of just kneeled down and they went out there and did that. So at least they didn't line up their running back at center like the Cowboys did. So just
that's why. Like, it was bad, but it wasn't Cowboys in the divisional round bad.
That should have gotten some people fired. I still understand how it didn't.
I mean, in the end, Kellen Moore left. So
yeah, He was unceremoniously fired. Also, speaking of the Cowboys, so Dak Prescott won the Walter Payton Man of the Year. So congratulations to him. But when he was getting his award for community service, the Eagles fans were all booing him in the stands because they are Philadelphia Eagles fans, and I almost feel like the loss is almost karma for that. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah, but you're gonna, it's like you're caught up in the moment, and that's can be karma, but also can be just fans react. Fans is fanatics, so they're gonna react kind of
Absolutely.
not.
So yeah, and I guess to kind of put a pin in this entire thing. Also, I just want to briefly mention. I thought just on some extra stuff. I thought these sets of commercials were some of the best we've had in years. Very funny, very enjoyable. Numerous ones that were great. Uh, Additionally, Rihanna was, I thought, okay at halftime. I mean, nothing special. I do shout out though for performing while pregnant. That's pretty impressive. And also to be dangling in the air while carrying carrying your child. I mean, that's pretty insane.
Imagine that. Imagine that child, can say, "I perform in the Super Bowl." You can say that.
Yeah, and she just gave birth like a few months ago too. So that's just going to be her second child with ASAP Rocky. So congrats to them on that. But the last topic I do want to kind of wrap this out as a bow, just a retrospective on this NFL season, because I feel like it was kind of weird because I feel like we went through a period like early mid-season where I feel like there was a lot of bad games. Like the season did not get off to the best start. And I feel like by like November, really started to pick up. December, I thought had a lot of good games. And then we had the DeMar Hamlin situation, which also was great to see him at the Super Bowl last night, walking around. But then the playoffs came in, and the playoffs featured some really good games, and obviously culminated in a great Super Bowl. It's every NFL season is unique. Every NFL season is different, and this was no different.
This season is like the what if season. What if the 49ers had a healthier quarterback? What if the Chiefs, what if the Bills and the Bengals game were actually played? Not have the DeMar. There's a lot of what if situations in this season. Is the what if?
Oh yeah, I mean, what happens? Because I still think the Bengals win that game. So I think the only change you would have seen is the Bengals would have been the 2, and the Bills would have been the 3. So the Dolphins would have gone to the Bengals, which I don't think you would have had much of a change there. And then you would have had the Ravens go to the Bills. I don't think you would have seen a change there. So the Bills would have had to go back to Cincinnati, and Cincinnati I think still wins. So I don't think it ultimately would have seen much of a change. But obviously, I think if the Bills somehow beat Cincy that night, then the Bills would have been the 1 seed. And how much would that have changed things? I mean, that's where things could have changed. So
and how about if the 49ers had a healthier quarterback? You got to think about it. I mean, they made it to the NFC Championship with great story, great, definitely Brock Purdy was the story of the season, Mr. Irrelevant to Mr. Playoffs, but in the end, not even he could have survived. I mean, there's got to be some jinx in Santa Clara. There's got to be some magic. Like, not one, not two. 3 quarterbacks got injured. Oh my God!
4 quarterbacks got injured. If you count Josh Johnson,
Jesus, that's true. I mean, there's got to be some, we call Macumba or jinx or whatever.
Yeah. Also, I think too, you also remember, if you think about the hype coming into the season, some of the insane disappointments that we saw. I mean, Russell Wilson. I mean, my goodness, the Denver Broncos. I thought that team was going to the AFC. I preseason had them going to the AFC Championship game, and they won 4 games the entire season. Just, I mean, an absolute bomb. The Titans, of course, bombed. I mean, both the Titans and Colts both absolutely bombed. I thought the Colts would be pretty good this year as well. I mean, you had the leading rusher in the league coming back, and Jonathan Taylor. You had Matt Ryan, who I thought could have a resurgence, and they just completely fell apart. The Titans completely fell apart. And I think, honestly, you'll remember the season as a chaining in the guard of the AFC South, where the Titans window truly closed, and it closed on the night of the NFL draft, where we traded away A.J. Brown for no reason. So I think this now starts the Titans, unfortunately, in the dark age, which is where we're going to have to really just rebuild the offense. I mean, the defense is in a good spot. As long as we re-sign Simmons, re-sign Byard, the defense will be fine. But we have no offense. We got to find an offense. Derrick Henry is not enough. He's getting older. Um, we have no one to throw to. And Ryan Tannehill, as I've stated in the past, I don't think he's good enough to win a championship. But honestly, this isn't even his fault because he has no O line and no receivers, really no tight ends. So I mean, what is he going to do?
Yeah, I feel like now it's one of those windows of opportunity. The Jacksonville Jaguars now have all three of the AFC South teams trying to find themselves practically in a rebuilding mode, and they found a really good coach, and finally their number one pick of their number one quarterback pick in the draft finally blossoming to be the talent that everybody expected to. So I feel like coming in next year or so, the Jags are expected to win the division. I feel like it's I don't know if they how far they can make in the playoffs. I mean, they they only got to the divisional round because of the Chargers choking, but it's gonna be interesting to
Yeah.
see what kind of. And I'm curious to see Russell Wilson, Sean Payton. How challenging this could have been for Mahomes and Andy Reid going forward, because I mean the AFC West, I feel like right now is the toughest division.
Yeah. And obviously, the Chargers, um, can they finally learn not to charger? Is the question. I don't know if they're going to at Brandon Staley. I mean, blowing a 27-0 lead. Ah,
Yeah, they're gonna
got
keep Brendan Staley because they made it to the playoffs. And probably the Spanos family are happy with him right now. But you know, you're gonna waste the rookie contract of a really great quarterback like Justin Herbert. It's just I feel like a waste.
Oh, absolutely. And I wouldn't be surprised if he left them after that rookie contract, to be honest.
Yeah,
Um, I think the last thing I want to point out is I think you're seeing in some eras. So obviously Tom Brady, I think that he is for real done this time, and Aaron Rodgers, I think he's done in Green Bay. I really do. I don't. I think
but
you will see him somewhere else.
and I was gonna say this for later shows, but since you point out like what the hell? Like now you're going to a retreat for 4 days, and the Packers like, oh, we're gonna allow Aaron Rodgers to find us. That's so pathetic. It's like
It
this is
really
like this is like a relationship where the guy clearly knows he's done with the girl, but he's like, oh, I'm gonna travel with my family, gonna go to retreat to think about the relationship for me,
or
and
or it's like, imagine if you're in a relationship with a girlfriend who asks, comes up to you and asks, "Can I be in an open relationship so I can be with these other guys?" And she's going out and she's hanging out with these other guys, and then she comes back like, "Oh, okay, I still want to be with you," but like deep down, she's not completely yours anymore. That's what the Green Bay Packers are dealing with right now.
like they're gonna have to cut the cord and it's so funny like one time okay like the history repeats itself, like how Aaron Rodgers learned the pattern with his predecessor. Like it was so funny, like it's history repeating itself.
Oh, absolutely. The Packers, I mean, if you think about it, and the Packers are the closest fan base we have to a college fan base. It's Green Bay, it's not a big town. And I think because of that, they get really attached to certain players. Like they like a Brett Favre, like an Aaron Rodgers, and they just don't know when to let them go.
and
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 I
they
think
the
that's how
players using them for like when and Brett Favre left such a like a way of such a you know distaste, and he even went to play for the Minnesota Vikings because maybe he didn't have the not the respect, but I feel like the appreciation. Like he just didn't care. Like and now Aaron Rodgers, I wouldn't be surprised if I don't think he's gonna go play for the Vikings because the Vikings is gonna stay with Kirk Cousins for the foreseeable future, and I feel like. I, I think Aaron Rodgers would be a perfect fit for Vegas because it would be a splashy. I mean, why not trade? I would have traded Aaron Rodgers for Derek Carr. It would have be. I would have made this trade.
Ooh, that's. I mean, I still probably would rather have Rodgers than Carr because I don't know if either one of you. either one of them are winning you a Super Bowl next year.
But think about it. Let's think about it. The let's recap the Rams Lions trade. For the short run, it was a good trade for the Rams. They got a veteran quarterback, Matthew Stafford. That was able to win the Super Bowl. But for the long run, it looks like Jared Goff is finally finding himself. And as you said yourself, the Lions next season is probably going to be a viable team for doing the division. So if you think about it, this trade could benefit both teams.
That actually could work. I mean, unfortunately, though, it looks like Derek Carr is just going to ask to be released. And just so he'll be on the open market, it looks like. Because he denied it, because he looks like the Raiders were trying to trade him to the Saints, but he doesn't want to do that. So, I mean, it would be an interesting trade if he went to Las Vegas. Imagine reuniting him with Devontae Adams and giving him Josh Jacobs. I mean, that would be a good fit. But
yeah, like Aaron Rodgers would die for go to Vegas, reunite with his best receiver in a really big, market, really close to California, where he has a lot of roots to.
And he'd be very close to Burning Man, which is where he would can spend some more time doing 4-day retreats.
Yeah. So I feel like we find a place for Rodgers. The only question is, why not the back and Derek Carr feels a lot like a Packer. He's very resilient, rumble, quiet. I feel like he would make a great fit in Green Bay. It would have benefited both teams.
Yeah. The only question is now, what do you do with Jordan Love? Because you wasted that first round pick on him.
Yeah, that's true. That's why another decision. So I guess if you're saying that, so you need to go with a bridge quarterback like a Teddy Bridgewater or a James Winston, kind of.
I mean, if you're going to go bridge quarterback, just try Jordan Love. I mean, I'd see if he can do it for a whole year, and if he stinks, you get a high draft pick next year. I mean, there's no point in bringing in a bridge quarterback with Jordan Love on the roster, unless you get a Derek Carr,
But I feel like having a having a bridge quarterback can actually help the young quarterback. You'll make like a good backup.
Jordan Love's been in the league for 3 years. It was like what 4 years.
But for example, Tua had Teddy Bridgewater. Was good for him. I feel like I don't know.
Tua actually got to start late his rookie year. I mean, Jordan Love is 4 years. I mean, Jordan Love got drafted a year or two after Mahomes. Like Jordan Love is not necessarily a young quarterback anymore. I mean, he's a younger quarterback.
And that's why Aaron Rodgers is so poisonous for Green Bay. That's why Green Bay doesn't, and not knowing how to deal with Rodgers can make the Jordan Love pick go to waste, not because of Love's fault, but because of this inability of the Green Bay Packers front office to cut straight and be like, because for example, what the Packers wanted Rodgers to be is what Jimmy Garoppolo is, a team player. He understood the Trey Lance situation. He did not bitch about it. He was understood when Trey Lance got hurt. He stepped up to play. Do you think Rodgers gonna do that? No way. No.
So that's why Aaron Rodgers and that's why Aaron Rodgers just got passed by another one of his peers last night in rings.
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers is gonna be the forever. Oh my God, so talented, such a splashy moments, and one ring, and he's gonna be known for all this controversies and nonsense and on and off the field and all the ad lib and not the titles. But the thing is, as a Green Bay Packer GM front office, you gotta be like, when he's come back to history, he gotta sit his A down and be like, so Aaron Rodgers, what are we gonna do? We're gonna have to find solutions. It's not working. The team is regressing, and we draft a replacement for you, but you don't want to mentor him or play along with him. So okay, let's be real. Where do you want to go, or something like that? Because I feel like this is what Green Bay Packers are enduring is worse than a rebuild and a tanking, because it's like the feeling of hope but then gets destroyed. Like the way they were eliminated in the regular season probably was more painful than all the teams they were rebuilding and tanking.
Yeah, because I mean, you don't get a high draft pick. I mean, you were fighting for the 7th seed. I mean, it's not like they were going to win the Super Bowl this year. Um, it's because I mean, their window really honestly closed last year when they lost to the 49ers in their home field. Um, and just kind of demonstrate once again that right now with Aaron Rodgers not winning a Super Bowl.
Yep. So what are you gonna do now moving forward? And he's pointing out like the Green Bay front office. I thought they made a decision when they draft Jordan Love. Like fine, like you can't like if you compare the trajectory of Jordan Love and Trey Lance, they were both kind of same. You were picked to be the replacement, the future of this franchise. But one, Trey Lance, had a really good coach and GM, and especially a veteran quarterback who mentor him. And the other one is being kind of held back and they not having time, like playing time. Like I think I don't remember. I think Jordan Love was drafted earlier than Trey Lance, and Trey Lance have more playing time. How can this happen?
No. I think Jordan Love was like the 26th pick in his draft, and Trey Lance was the 3rd pick.
No. What I'm saying is, so both were drafted at the same time, but who has more playing time? Who has more experience?
I mean, Trey Lance really doesn't have that much because I mean he got his ACL blew up in this first game this year at Chicago, and I think he had like 2 starts in his rookie year because this was only his 2nd year in the league this year for Trey Lance. So,
but I guess somehow he was able to. But the 49ers coaching staff were like, okay, we're gonna go all in and we're gonna see what he can do, and the Packers are like babying Jordan Love, like when he
and that's going to be interesting to watch too with the Niners. What do they do? I mean, Brock Purdy proved he was a legitimate quarterback. I mean, you still got Garoppolo, and then Trey Lance is the guy you invested all your chips in. I don't know what you do because I mean, Trey Lance probably is the guy with the most upside, but Brock Purdy proved he's a capable quarterback.
And interesting, and how long are they going to take to recover all three? Like, who's going to be recovering first? That's the big question because whoever recovers first is going to be the starting quarterback. It's like it's not a talent decision. It's a health.
I think that's all that Purdy, with his wrist, it's going to be out for 6 months, so he should be ready by July. Trey Lance tore his ACL in September, so that's usually an 8-9 month. So he should be ready by training camp. And Garoppolo, I don't know when he's going to be back.
Yeah. So, but I think what Kyle Shanahan worries the most is that he has all this talent and all this accomplishment, but always come up short because of something. So he's going to be known as this great coach who can always delivers, but never got this he never got the thing done.
Yeah, but you know who we were saying the same thing about 5 years ago?
Andy Reid. That's true. So, so do you think Kyle Shanahan still haven't found his Patrick Mahomes?
I mean, we haven't seen Trey Lance healthy for a full season yet. So we'll have to wait and see on that because that's I think the idea they had with Lance. I'm not convinced he's going to be a Patrick Mahomes, but we'll have to wait and see because they certainly have the talent around him. I mean, if they can keep Christian McCaffrey, because I think they have to re-sign him. You still got George Kittle. I like Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings. You've got talent around the 49ers, especially on defense. I mean, their defense is incredible.
Also, congratulations to the VFL Trey Smith. What a journey he had in football. What a journey. I remember when he came up with his health issue in Tennessee, some people thought his career was going to be done, and now he's a Super Bowl champ.
Absolutely. From Jackson, Tennessee, out in West Tennessee, a small town, and now he's a Super Bowl champion.
I just feel bad for him. He had to endure the Pruitt, Butch and Pruitt years.
Yeah, but thank God now he actually gets to play some real football with maybe the greatest quarterback who's ever lived. So,
But imagine if he would have
that's
played. Imagine playing under Josh Heupel. Oh my God, we can only imagine.
oh man. Yeah, imagine going from Jerry Garantano to Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback you're blocking for. That just had to be the best feeling in the world for Trey Smith. I'm just so happy for him, man. So
No, me
happy.
too. Always so nice to me in the press conferences. Always so such a positive person. I was so happy for him.
I
Uh,
mean, and he really like had a lot of energy too. I mean, despite all the BS that him and his teammates had to go through while they were here, I mean, he was always one of the ones that kept the energy, like him and Jawan. I mean, those weren't great years of football, but those two really kept the fan base going, kept us around, and really kept us around for guys like Hinton Hooker to bring us fully back. So without a Trey Smith, without a Jawan Jennings, we don't have a Hendon Hooker. We don't have a Jalen Hyatt. Um, so you gotta thank them for getting us through the rough times to get us to the good times. And I'm glad now he is in his football nirvana in KC.
that's true. That's true. So I guess again, congratulations to the Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas, because I guess both cities are going to be like, I'm the champion. I'm the champion. I love that
Yeah,
kind of, the state of Missouri and the state of Kansas, like, I am the champion. I am the champion because Kansas
yeah.
City is like a divided city. There's two Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas.
And Missouri and Kansas as states both hate each other. Because remember, you
Yeah,
had the whole split in Kansas in the 1850s, and Missouri, the Tigers and the Jayhawks both hate each other. So, and actually, this is it's funny how this worked out. Segue right wise, we're talking about a football team in Missouri. You have Trey Smith, a volunteer. I, along with my friend Jason Wyrick, were in Knoxville to see the Tennessee basketball Volunteers play the Missouri Tigers. And yeah. So, all right. So let's recap. So, Tennessee heading into last week was by far the number one team in the country on defense. So the offense had been kind of an off and on issue all year. It's Rick Barnes. We know this. So if we go back to last Wednesday, if we just back up for a second, we go to Vanderbilt. We haven't lost to Vanderbilt since 2017. 11 straight basketball games. So the score is 65-63. It's a back and forth game. Defense has not had their best game. Offense had played well for the most part, but as often happens underneath Rick Barnes, we went 5 minutes without scoring and let Vanderbilt get back into the game. So 2-point game. Santiago Vescovi gets fouled, goes to the line. He's usually a pretty automatic free throw shooter. Throws it up, doink. Vanderbilt gets it, puts it back to their side. I think they take a timeout. Then they throw it back into the corner. Their guy throws it up. Swish. Game over. Vandy breaks their streak. They storm the court. Best win for Vanderbilt basketball in a very long time. And a week after they had lost to Alabama 101-44. If I want to remind the public, remind the crowd. So let's fast forward now to Saturday. Not Neyland Stadium. God, I wish it were football season in Neyland Stadium. No, this is basketball season. We're in Thompson-Boling Arena. Great to be back in Knoxville. Love Knoxville. Had a good time this weekend. So go into TBA with Jason. We're sitting there, having a good time. Like, okay, going to be a bounce back game. Good bounce back game. Pretty much a sold out crowd, loud environment. Missouri comes in, and Missouri's had a really good year this year. Dennis Gates is their first year head coach, who's from Cleveland State. And they just come out and are just on fire. They're just shooting threes left and right. They're getting good looks from the floor. They have, and some of the guys, they have like a Kobe Brown, for example, number 24. Dude, I mean, he's like 6'8", but he handles the ball like a guard. He can shoot the three really well. They have Sean East, number 55. He was really lighting this up too. Like, Missouri's got some really good players. And they were just mopping us on the offensive end. Like, no team this year has done this to Tennessee. They have like 42. No, they have 44 at the half. At one point in this game, they were up by 17. But then Tyreek Key comes out of nowhere and just gets light hot. It propels Tennessee back into the game. We take the lead. It looks like we're going to win the thing. But then Missouri creeps back in. So it's 83-82. That Santiago Vescovi gets the ball. He shoots free throws. He makes both of them. 85-82. Missouri goes back down, gets a quick 2. 85-84. Okay. They're going to do this. So we got to go back to the free throw line. Santiago Vescovi back at the line again. He misses. 1. He throws back up again. Lane violation. Missouri gets the ball. 6 seconds. You want to just take a guess what happens next? Missouri gets the ball. They run it up the court. They shoot it from nearly half court, and they freaking make it. And for the second time in a week, Jason Wyrick and I have witnessed a buzzer beater in person. Because you've got to remember, till last week, we saw the Queens Austin P ending where Queens hit a buzzer beater to beat Austin P in Clarksville. And now we witnessed Missouri
and both
beat Knoxville.
And both the road team made the clutch shot.
Yeah. And none of the 3 buzzer beaters in the last week were the team I wanted to win. And it's crazy, in both of the balls games, our best free throw shooter, the player that's in the top 10 the shooting guard award list, missed. And it's crazy because the Vols are still ranked in the top 10 for some reason. I don't know why. I wouldn't even rank them in the top 15 right now. But AP voters are much kinder to them right now than I am. So they're ranked number 10. The schedule gets a little bit easier this week, guys. It gets a lot easier. You know why? Because we have to play number 1 Alabama Wednesday night in Knoxville, and then go to Kentucky Saturday night in Rupp Arena. Very easy week. Just the easiest week you could ever ask for. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Seriously, I don't know what happened to this team. I mean, we were number 2 in the country 2 weeks ago. And it just feels like the wheels are coming off a little bit. We've lost 3 out of 4. And it's concerning. I mean, it's February 13th. That means in 2 weeks from Thursday, it's March. And we all know the narrative of Rick Barnes' teams. They don't do well in March. And it's not exactly a good sign that we're kind of stumbling through the middle of February to lose 3 out of 4, and really could have lost 4 straight. Got fortunate that Auburn couldn't hit the broadside of a barn last week, and they've lost 5 straight of their own. I don't know. I mean, I'm honestly in full on panic mode about the team. Because I just, right now, this looks like a team that's not making it out of the first round. And it's not just on the offensive end, because offense, they scored 83 points or 85 points on Saturday night. They scored a ton of points, especially in that second half. And hopefully that second half gets them back going offensively. I'm concerned about the defense. I feel like Missouri absolutely exposed us defensively. I mean, the cuts they were doing, the motion, Dennis Gates' offense was so fluid and so pretty to watch, even at the expense of the Tennessee Volunteers basketball team. And it feels like Tennessee is going to run into a team like that in March that's going to be able to shoot like Missouri. And that's when Tennessee's in trouble, because Tennessee can't shoot like that. And I don't know. It's concerning. It's extremely concerning. And my hopes for March right now are not very high, Gus. I wish it was different. I mean, there's people now literally calling for Rick Barnes to be fired. Now, I think that's asinine. I mean, who else are you going to get that's better than Rick Barnes? But yeah, that was not a fun week. Not a fun week of basketball whatsoever.
Yeah, the thing is that those back-to-back last-second shots is that, that's what kind of play that defines March Madness, clutch shots. And Tennessee lost back-to-back games like that. So, it's concerning.
Who would you trust for Tennessee to take that clutch shot?
Yeah.
That's the question. Do you want to trust Vescovi? If Vescovi literally, there's like a stat I saw in like some of the biggest games this year, and he's shooting like 20%. Like he has not been good this year on offense. I don't understand how he's a finalist for the top 10. Here's the thing: I love Santiago Vescovi. I think he's been a great player for us, but he hasn't been good this year. He has not played at the level that we need him to play if we want to win championships.
But I think it's very fun to have another Tennessee, Alabama, both ranked the top 10. That's really kind of sets the rivalry not only for football but for athletics as a whole. And
I don't know how fun it's going to be because I think Bama, if we don't come out and find our defense again, because Bama is one of the best offenses in the country. If we don't figure something out, I mean, they're going to beat us and beat us bad. They're averaging 83 points a game.
And are they now a basketball school?
Yeah, it's Alabama's a basketball school. Yes.
I don't know. Yes. I mean, just saying, Alabama football were not ranked number one team in the football season. Alabama basketball was.
Yeah. And hey, our football team this year was ranked higher than what our basketball team is ranked right now. So Tennessee, they might be a football school. Hey, the roles have reversed.
Yeah.
All seriously, I think this will be a really good game, a really close game. And as much as I maybe have been hyperbolic, Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless-ish in this segment, there's still a lot of season left. It's only the middle of February. If Tennessee goes on a run next month, no one's going to remember those 2 losses back to back by buzzer beater. And frankly, you had those games won. You just kind of lost on some crazy stuff. I mean, the odds of losing 2 straight games like that again in that fashion are extremely low. So you just have to hope that team in there hasn't lost their confidence, hasn't lost their hope. And I think this is the type of situation where you bring the players together for a players-only meeting, where you have to sit down and be like, okay, who is our leader? Who is the guy we are going to go to when the tough gets rough? I mean, Tyreek Keith stepped up in that second half. Maybe he's the guy we need to go to because he was the guy that basically won us that game. Santiago Vescovi, I hope there's some people with him mentally because I know he's probably blaming himself for those 2 losses. And while it's not completely all on him, for a senior, those are free throws you got to make. In that scenario, we are going to need him to make some big free throws in the SEC tournament and the NCAA tournament if we're going to win. Sakai Ziegler, obviously a very talented young guard. There were times in that game where he tried to play hero ball, and it kind of cost us at the end. I think he's got some. I get it. He's trying to win the game. But sometimes winning the game means you got to pass the ball out. Julian Phillips, we need the 5-star. Or we need someone. We just need someone to go to. And I don't know if that guy's on this roster.
Isn't that the theme that the Tennessee Volunteers basketball team had for so many years? Even when I was there the last time, 2020, 2021, I remember that we had 2 really good promising players. Forgot.
Keon Johnson and Jane Springer.
Yeah, they were one and done, but we never saw them as like a go-to guys.
No, I mean the last time I truly felt like we had a good. I mean Kennedy Chandler last year was a go-to. Kennedy Chandler last year was a go-to guy. But then before that, it was Grant.
Yeah,
and Admiral. And that was the last time I truly felt like, okay, if we need a shot, we got Grant Williams. We got Admiral Schofield. I don't feel about that right now about any player on this roster. And even when we weren't that good, like Josh Richardson, his senior year, like back in 2016, that was the guy. Kevin Punter the year before that was the guy. We don't have that guy right now. That I just 100% saying, okay, if it's that last shot, if we're the team that's down 2, coming the other way, I don't know who the ball needs to be in the hands of. And that's a problem for this team because, I mean, Otherwise, we're just going to go through more 4 or 5 minute stretches where we can't shoot the ball. And I almost wonder, and I'm going to contradict myself. I just said when I was talking about Zakai Ziegler, sometimes you need to pass the ball. There's also times where you need to take some shots. I mean, and this has been a common theme with Rick Barnes, where it seems like when they go more and more for the season, he gets on them for very minute things. And again, that's what a coach is supposed to do. But I think he makes them overthink, and they don't play ball enough, especially on offense. Like defense is all about detail, so his style is great for defense. Even though Missouri, that terrible defensive game, but I think that was just partially Missouri just being a great offense. But offensively, I think he needs to let them play some ball, because we can't go through stretches where we don't score, because otherwise that's going to be the death of this team. And if they don't find some alternate ways to deal with that, yeah, kind of put us on repeat. I've said this for like 5 years now. It's going to be the death of Tennessee in March. And if I had to bet right now, I would bet on Tennessee dying in March. That's just the bet I would make. I really, really hope that I'm almost going to take an opposite approach. I expect us to lose in the NCAA tournament, second or third round. I expect it. I want this team to prove me wrong desperately. But I just they will have to prove me wrong.
Yeah, I know. I think a great rebound game is defeating the number one team in the country at home. That would be a great rebounding
That
game
would
after.
be. Or even just beating Kentucky. I mean, because Kentucky, but what's weird is Kentucky's back in a similar spot we were when we played them last time. They just lost to Georgia. Kentucky is one of the last 4 teams in. Kentucky has to beat us on Saturday. They just have to. If they lose to us at home, they may be in a position where they are going to miss the tournament entirely. So that game's going to be everything for Kentucky. So I'll be honest, I'm not confident about winning either one of these games.
Yeah, we're gonna see what's gonna be Wednesday night. But sometimes when we are not as confident, that's where they come and surprise us.
Yeah, that is also a trait of Rick Barnes' teams, It feels like when we're down and out on them, they always find a way to keep us around. I really, really hope that's the case here. Because here's the thing. I love Rick Barnes. I love what he's done for this basketball program. I love how he represents Tennessee. But at some point, I do want us to go deep in March. At some point, I would like to outright win the SEC regular season championship. At some point, I'd like to see my team actually play in the Final Four for once. Right now, this team doesn't look like that. But you know what? They don't play March Madness today, thankfully. So we got some time. We have some time. So enough sulking there. Go beat Alabama. Let's go get it. Third Wednesday I'll be the third Wednesday in February on Wednesday night. So gonna be a good one. Lady Vols finally got a win. I know they lost Mississippi State in overtime last week. They beat Vanderbilt on Saturday, swept them. So they're just chugging along. Can't beat the top teams, but I think they still make the tournament, and I don't know. We'll see what they can do. Baseball start this weekend. They go to Arizona. They play in the Diamondback Stadium. They'll play the Arizona Wildcats Grand Canyon. Jason and I actually got to watch a little bit of baseballs this past weekend. A scrimmage, and I know, Gus, I was FaceTiming you in to watch it.
Oh, Lindsey Nelson Stadium bringing me so much memories.
It's so much nicer now. It's a lot bigger. Still not big enough, though. The tickets for some of these big games this year are starting at $175. It's going to be big. I mean, honestly, in terms of analysis, I don't really have that much. I mean, they're playing themselves. The final score was 11-9, so a lot of runs. The pitcher, I don't know who number 15 was, but he kind of struggled. But then again, he's playing the Tennessee offense, which is one of probably the best offensive lines in the country, I would assume. So we will find out what these Tennessee Vols have next week. All right, a little bit of I don't know if you had anything else to say about baseball.
I'm just excited for MLB now. With the NFL is done, we're gonna turn our attentions to the Major League Baseball. Catcher um, springtime is almost here. Spring training is almost here. Hopefully, it starts on time this year. Not last year they had to, scramble to play, spring training. Just excited for Major League Baseball to start probably like in a month, right? I think opening
Yeah,
day.
yeah, because they should be reporting to spring training here in about 2 weeks, I would say. So, going to be an
Uh,
interesting season. And
Opening day
actually,
is it's March 30th, so I guess it's 40 days.
absolutely. So it's going to be fun to see what happens in MLB this year. Definitely, we'll have a lot more when we get close to the time. Some NBA to finish. Well, actually, I still have a little bit of NASCAR after that, but
If you go ahead,
NBA.
you can go NASCAR first because then I have also a international basketball update that involves a
Oh yeah,
Brazilian.
yeah. Well, NASCAR is very short because I mean, obviously, no NASCAR this past weekend because of the Super Bowl. Um, obviously, briefly mentioned last week that Martin Truex Jr. won the Clash, but that was exhibition. But this week is for real the start of NASCAR because we have the Daytona 500, the biggest race of the year, the Super Bowl of stock car racing, biggest race of the year, and you know. As with any Daytona 500, I really can't tell you who's going to win this thing because remember it is super speedway racing. It's kind of a wild card. You just don't know exactly who's going to be up there at the end. There's certain drivers that usually find their way up there, like a Denny Hamlin. Bubba Wallace is great at stock car racing, at a restrictor plate racing. I think a Brad Keselowski could be a threat here, but I'm not going to make a pick here. Just because, I mean, anyone. I mean, there's at least 25, 30 drivers that could win this thing. I believe qualifying should be either tomorrow night or Wednesday. Then Thursday, we're going to have qualifying races. And Friday, you should have trucks. Saturday, you should have ARCA and the Xfinity. And obviously, Sunday is the 500 itself, which is going to be exciting. Hopefully, it's a good show. Hopefully, a safe show. I mean, Daytona, obviously known for big crashes. So hopefully everyone will be safe, and also will be a test of the new car. How safe is it truly? There was unfortunately some rumblings last week that the new car may not be as soft on impact as they were hoping because they made some alterations this past year after concussions to the likes of Kurt Busch and Alex Bowman last year. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens in this year's Daytona 500. Going to be a fun show, a fascinating show. And as always, it's going to be riveting with tons of storylines. Particularly, I think the driver to watch, in terms of not picking, but Kyle Busch, he's the best driver in the field to have never won a Daytona 500. He has 2 championships. I think he's in Dale Earnhardt territory right now, where remember Dale Earnhardt never could win the 500. He just time after time after time just failed over and over again, but finally won it in 1998. One of the greatest moments in NASCAR history. Kyle Busch obviously isn't Dale Earnhardt, but Kyle Busch. I mean, that's the one thing he doesn't have in his resume is a 500 victory. So that would be huge for him. Kevin Harvick too. This is his last try. He's won it back in 2007. Can he add a second one to his legacy? So lots of storylines. I look forward to recapping it next week. All right, let's talk some NBA because we had a massive moment on Wednesday. I believe it was Wednesday night. I think it was Tuesday night. It was Tuesday night when it happened. LeBron James is now your all-time scorer in NBA record leader. He passed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at 38,388 points. And they stopped the game, had a whole ceremony. LeBron dropped the F-bomb live on national television. Good times had to be all. Lakers lost the game, but who cares? And, Anthony Davis might have been pouty a little bit, but, I mean, he never stays healthy enough to even come close to that scoring record. But, I mean, this is definitely another cap in LeBron's legacy. And I think most people at this point, they've made up their mind whether or not they think LeBron's the greatest player of all time. Most people say Michael Jordan. There's a handful of people that will say LeBron over Michael Jordan. What does this mean for his legacy? I mean, it's one of the craziest records to break. To break 38,388 points for an entire career.
Oh, it's a big accomplishment. I feel like it cements his legacy as one of the all-time greats. Of course, he always, and I feel like the people compare him to Michael Jordan is because both were so polarizing, both were so, unique and intense that they compare. But again, it being the all-time scoring is just show how LeBron James is going to be one of the all-time greats. It makes fun entertainment, but what is the difference between you be number one, be who's the best player? Like, you already have the accomplishment. You can say because best player is a lot of subject figures opinion. Like this is something there's no opinion about stats and being all-time scorer is a legit stat, and it's something that it's not an opinion; it's a fact.
And keep in mind too, what makes this impressive is LeBron's not just like a ball hog. He's not Russell Westbrook. I mean, LeBron James passes the ball a lot. Like he's fourth all time in assist. He's one of the greatest passers in the history of the sport. He's probably the best non-point guard passer we've ever seen. Now, Nokia Jokic may eclipse that one day because Nokia Jokic is probably the best center passer we've ever seen in the NBA. But LeBron James is one of the best passers. I mean, he's always been an unselfish player. And the fact is, he still scored so much that he has eclipsed his record. I mean, he is one of the greatest players about that. He's at least top two. He's at least top two. And whoever's won is your subjective opinion. Now, I mean, at the end of the day, I think 6-0 in the NBA Finals is still more impressive. But and plus, I think you got to also account for that Michael Jordan was the face of the NBA in their most popular era in America. But then on that flip side, LeBron has helped the NBA immensely globally. Now that comes with its drawbacks. Some people are going to say, well, what about the whole China thing? Yeah, LeBron's too cozy with China. But some also say that Michael Jordan's Air Jordans get made in China too. So, whatever you want to say about the off the court stuff, when it comes to strictly on the court, LeBron is top tier. He's incredible. Personality wise, not my favorite person, but that's not what they count. They don't count what you do off the court in the NBA. They count what you do on the court, and what LeBron does on the court is elite.
Oh yeah, yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, we can analyze and nick it, need to peek it, debate whatever LeBron is off the court, but now it's another, you know, example of how great LeBron James is, and I feel like it's just sad that LeBron James now, is in a team that is a lot about branding, but I guess now with this Russell West getting out of the Russell Westbrook contract and this trade maybe is a light of the end of the tunnel, but still the Lakers are big brand but with no direction.
Yeah, I think he's got to leave the Lakers if he truly wants to be competitive again. And I think as you've been saying, I think he'll go back to the Cavs. And the Lakers are going to have to just completely rebuild. And I will say this, even though I did take a crack at him a few minutes ago, I do feel bad for Russell Westbrook. At one point, he was a top 5 player in this league. He was one of the best point guards in this league. But I don't know. He's fallen off. He's just too high volume. He commands too much of the ball for any one of his teams to truly be championship contenders. And that's why Kevin Durant left to go to the Golden State Warriors and won championships there. That's why he isn't working with LeBron James. I mean, he's great for stats, but not great for rings. And unfortunately, I think for Russell Westbrook, he's never going to win a ring because of it.
And in the end, that MVP that he won made it was a great for his probably ego, but overall it legitimized the way he was playing, and now it backfired him.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that really kind of emboldened him to play in his style, and he never really adapted from it. So we'll see what he does. He'll have an NBA spot somewhere, but I don't think he'll be the focal point anywhere he goes. He'll have to be a side piece, essentially, a complimentary piece, whoever we goes. But in terms of not being a complimentary piece, Kevin Durant is still one of the best scorers in the league. And the Brooklyn Nets have blown it up. I mean, Kyrie Irving. I mean, you thought that he was super controversial early this year. Man, he really forced the Brooklyn Nets to blow it up. I mean, wow. I mean, the Nets were a legit title contender this year, and now they traded away their two superstars. And Kevin Durant's now on the Suns. I mean, what do you think this all means for the NBA? What it means for the Nets, for the Suns?
If Kevin Durant now done with playing with buddies and he wants to play with somebody hungry for titles like Chris Paul, but in the end that was one of the worst experience. Like, we're gonna be comparing who was the worst experiment, the Nets trio or the Lakers trio, the one with
the Dwight Howard and Steve Nash.
Yeah, who was the worst?
Well, I think that this isn't even the worst in Nets history. I mean, remember 10 years ago when the Nets had Kevin Durant, Kevin Garnett, they had Paul Pierce, and they had, I think it was Joe Johnson, and they literally traded away their whole future for it. They only made like the Eastern Conference semis, and then went into like 10 years of irrelevance. Like, that was probably the worst. But I mean, the Nets here, they didn't do any more. They went to one Eastern Conference semis. Unfortunately, no matter what the Nets do, no matter what their shiny arena is, they are the forgotten New York team because nobody cares.
I mean, they left New Jersey. I feel like the New Jersey embraced them. Brooklyn doesn't.
Exactly. No one cares that the Nets are irrelevant. I mean, you are the New York team. No one cares. You are the Clippers. No one cares about the Clippers. No one cares about the Lakers or the Nets. Everyone cares about the Lakers, but no one cares about the Nets because everyone cares about the Lakers and everyone cares about the Knicks. And I just care. I wonder if the Knicks would have wasted them like that because the Nets did. And the Nets still got a good roster, honestly, but I mean they're not a title roster anymore. And it was a shame. I thought they would have had a chance at winning a championship this year.
If only that 2 point was a 3 point that Kevin Durant scored against the Milwaukee Bucks. If only.
Yeah. You go back and change the past.
I was thinking that, like, two moments that define two teams that were building. The 76ers, the process, were defined by the last play of Kawhi Leonard versus the Toronto Raptors. And the Nets trio was defined by the last play Kevin Durant was a 2, not a 3.
Yeah, but now let's think about the starting five for the Phoenix Suns. You've got Chris Paul, you've got Kevin Durant, you've got Devin Booker. I mean, Chris Paul, obviously a great facilitator. Devin Booker is a high-volume scorer in his own right. There's only one basketball there.
But that's my concern. But it shows, like, when the Suns went to the finals, Chris Paul wasn't a true leader. I feel like this team needed a guy. Chris Paul likes to be the 2. He doesn't care about being the 1.
True. And Kevin Durant will bring the ball up. He will be that guy. He knows how to win championships. But he won his championships with the Golden State Warriors that already had a distinct culture. And you know what team is kind of just lurking. They're coming back to the surface. The Golden State Warriors are now 500. They're in the 9th seed right now. They'd be in the play-in. They're sitting there. They're kind of like Jaws. They're just sitting there, And it's really going to be a time to really start thinking about who can win a championship. I mean, I think the Celtics are now probably the favorite. I know Denver's one in the West, but I gotta see them do it in the playoffs before I pick them, because I'm at that point with the Denver Nuggets. We're like, okay, you can win all these regular season games all you want. I need to see you do it in the postseason. The most intriguing team here is the Kings. How about the Sacramento Kings this year? I mean, they just keep on chugging. They keep on rolling. It's pretty remarkable. I mean, De'Aaron Fox, what he's doing, and Sabonis and Barnes. It's a great story. I mean, that franchise, those fans have needed a season like this for a long time, and I really hope they do something in the postseason. Obviously, just as a Tennessean, I want to see the Grizzlies do well with Ja Morant. I think if they had gotten past the Warriors, they could have won it all last year. But we will see what they can do. And also, Clippers are just sitting there too at the 6th spot. So,
and now we're gonna have the All-Star break, the All-Star game coming up next weekend.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right, because Daytona 500 and the All-Star game always on the same day. But kind of like the Pro Bowl, I don't really care about the All-Star weekend. It's just glorified pickup basketball. Now, I do like to see if they could break 200 because they get close every year. They just never do.
Yeah. But I want to see. I like the Saturday, talent case. It's way better than the NFL.
Well, the dunk contest has been terrible for years. Is the problem? And the dunk contest used to be amazing, but the problem is they can't get any of the stars to do the dunk contest. Who's even in the dunk contest? I'm going to look this up. Who is in our dunk contest? Because normally they get a whole bunch of bench players to show up. So, okay, so we have Kenyon Martin Jr. You have Shaden Sharp, Mac McClung, who isn't even in the NBA, the G League, and Trey Murphy III. Or actually, Jericho Sims took over Sharp's spot. Okay, so none exactly names are superstars. Like back when the dunk contest was big, you had Julius Erving, Michael Jordan, Vince Carter. I mean, that's when the dunk contest was great. Now you can't get the stars to bother with the dunk contest. And now they stink because of it.
Yeah, we'll see about that. It's going to be interesting weekend. Speaking of the G League.
But shout out Mike McClung, though. I mean, he is from the Tri-Cities up there. It's like Gate City, Virginia. I played a lot of games in Johnson City and Bristol, Tennessee. So, hey, shout out to him.
But speaking of the G League, this weekend, a G League team represented the United States in the FIBA Intercontinental Cup, which is like the FIFA Club World Cup for basketball. You had the Rio Grande Valley Vipers, which was the 2021-2022 G League champions. You had Lenovo Tenerife, the European Basketball Champions League winners. You had the U.S. Monastir, which was the African basketball champion, and you had Sao Paulo from Brazil, Sao Paulo, the winners of the South American Basketball League, and Sao Paulo defeated Rio Grande Valley Vipers 91-70 on Friday to advance to the finals on Sunday against Tenerife, but it came up short, 89-68. Tenerife is I know NBA fans are going to be a little hurt, but officially they are the world champions since they play in the Intercontinental tournament. But I know it's not right, and I would love to see again. Did you know McDonald's sponsor a championship between the North American champion and the South American champion back in the year 2000? So there was a game between it was a kind of like a world champion, this big game between San Antonio Spurs and Vasco da Gama. And San Antonio Spurs were playing with all stars, like it was Tim Duncan, the Twin Towers. The team was coached by Popovich.
How did that go? Because I would assume the Spurs probably.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. Tim Duncan was actually the MVP of the game. The game happened on October 16, 1999. It was called the McDonald's Championship in Milan, Italy. Uh,
Why were they
and
in
you,
Italy of all places? That
I think because of FIBA, FIBA chose the spot because I don't know why, but it wasn't a recognized by FIFA. Actually, it wasn't recognized by FIBA, but it was. I don't know why they picked. It was kind of like there was an Australian team, an Italian team, a Lebanon team, and a Lithuanian team. It was kind
hey,
of like
the
a weird.
Italian team, the Italian team, Varese Roosters only lost by 10 in the semis to the Spurs, but then the Spurs absolutely dominate the final, 103-68.
Yeah, but and the Brazilian team only scored 2 points in the last quarter. But I mean I know asking for an NBA team to stop their NBA season to play in this kind of tournament is silly. I would wish they would have played probably like in August, kind of September kind of vibe. I feel like for NBA team would have been a great preseason. I think for NBA team it's better to play the FIBA Intercontinental Tournament for preseason than to go to China and play like for money for grabs. Like I feel like NBA team could have fit there, but if only FIBA would have been more flexible with working NBA and be like, hey, let's play in a time that we can fit in your schedule, probably August, September, and be a great preseason for you guys and be a great kind of showcase. Because of course you better have the Golden State Warriors compared to the Rio Grande Valley Vipers. No offense, probably they have a good team, but it'll be a really better tournament for FIBA, more legit if they had Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, there would have been some interesting matchups, and international basketball is getting a lot better. I mean, and think about this, you'd have some situations where you have future NBA players playing against their future competitors. I mean, think about if we got to see the French team that has Victor Wembanyama on them. Victor Wembanyama is going to be the number one pick next year, and he's 7'4", kind of like a bigger version of Kevin Durant. I am so excited to see him play. I don't know if you've never watched highlights of Victor Wembanyama, look it up after this pod because he looks phenomenal.
Yeah, like and it's so funny. There wasn't even a French team that made it even to the quarterfinals of the basketball Champions League. So even if he is a good player, French league is not there yet in terms of competition.
No, he currently plays for the Metropolitans 92 of the LMB Pro A, which is the top tier league in France. But yeah, but he is 7'4" or 7'2". He is 7'2", so he is
But 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 congratulations to Sao Paulo. They made it to the finals. They even though they have Sao Paulo football team as their name, they have like basketball and other sports, and it's always good to see Brazilian teams. But at least they made to the final in a kind of world tournament compared to Flamengo, where they lost to Al Hilal on Tuesday. Inexplicably 22. Both. I mean, we already talked about this last Tuesday, but they won their third place game against Al Ali from Egypt. Was not more than an obligation to do it. No celebration. It was like to avoid even bigger humiliation. Real Madrid beat Al Hilal, not expected. It's so funny that the European teams have won 10 years in a row, but they don't celebrate. It's like for the European team, it's like the summer league for the NBA. Like it's cool to win, but people forgot 1 week after it's done.
yeah, I mean they've got bigger fish to fry. They got to worry about La Liga. They got to worry about the upcoming Champions League. I mean, it's like preseason.
That's why
It's like the
FIFA is
McDonald's
desperate.
championship.
Yeah, and that's why FIFA is desperate to change the format, but European UEFA and the big European teams already said no. Like we already waste 1 week of this thing. Like let's not make this a bigger thing. We already have the UEFA Champions League. That's the
So,
big
like,
tournament.
how would you change it? Because you have six
Like
continents. You can't.
no, what FIFA wants to do is make a FIFA Club World Cup with the the actual World Cup format with no with 32 teams, 8 groups, like a group stage and all that stuff.
It would just turn into another Champions League. There's no point.
Yeah, there's no point. They want to put like 10, 12 European teams. Like it's already the Champions League. That's why the European teams and UEFA is like give the middle fingers. Like we already have our big tournament. We don't need to play, and the gaps is getting bigger because again another South American team did not make it to the finals. It makes the point is like unfortunately right now the South American continent they probably were really good in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, but now we have to compete with African continent, even Middle East. Flamengo has the highest payroll, best athletes. They couldn't be all out from South South from the Middle East, from Saudi Arabia, and they it wasn't like oh my god they had Cristiano Ronaldo. No, their best player was Michel, which was literally playing for Flamengo a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I just imagine in this format, like how many spots would they give North America? How many spots would they give Asia? Because like if they give North America more than a handful of spots, it means you can have MLS teams. Imagine having your average MLS team walk on the field with a top tier European club. They'll get waxed.
But a good point would be if I think looking at this prospect, if United States of America really want to get more into the world market in their league, maybe this will be a good thing because we'll be bringing more U.S. team versus European teams. Because the
Right.
knock on MLS is that
Harrison for a while though is the problem.
yeah, that's true, but I guess you just you find at least more relevance, more kind of playing with bigger team. I don't know, but anyway, congratulations to Real Madrid, FIFA Club World Cup champions. You know, but Flamengo disappointing. Vitor, a lot of question marks for Vitor Pereira moving forward. Is he gonna keep as a Flamengo head coach? He now have the Sul American, the Recopa Sul Americana, which is the Libertadores champions versus the Sud America champions. So Flamengo faces Independiente del Valle, the third big game in the season. They already lost to Palmeiras in the Brazilian Super Cup. They were knocked out in the semis in the FIFA Club World Cup. They got to win this tournament. If they don't win it, I think it's done for Vitor Pereira. It's done. And the name of Flamengo is already looking ahead, thinking about it. Is Tite, former Brazilian national team coach for the vacancy if Vitor Pereira leaves.
Oh
But
my gosh. So they
but
fire
I'll be
coaches faster than we do.
yeah, but I'll be mad. I'll be very mad because I want to see Vitor Pereira
Uh,
coming to Itaquera. That's not fair, Flamengo.
I mean, it's just
You're
hilarious that they already have their successor already named. They're like, okay, we want that guy. That's our John Gruden. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. That's and in the end, Flamengo is going to be the team, the dynasty that like the dynasty that never happened because of so much mismanaged of the front office. Flamengo had all the qualities and all the marks of a dynasty, but I don't see them as a dynasty because I know they won two big titles in 2019 and two big titles in 2022 and one uh, Brazilian championship in 2020. But from what the value of the roster, the talent of the roster, they should have won way more tournaments. They should have been way more way more better than they were. So we'll see what happens to Flamengo moving forward. But a team I should be worried about, really, really worried about, and we already discussed that is Santos. Santos lost badly another time to Sao Paulo. So Santos lost badly two big games this season already to Palmeiras and Sao Paulo. Another 3-1. I don't think they're gonna get relegated because Portuguesa and Ferroviária, even Ituano, are really, really, really bad. But what is that moving forward? I mean, when the Brazilian Championship comes around in April, I mean, they're not gonna face the São Bentos, the Ferroviárias. They're gonna face big teams like Flamengo and Cruzeiro and Atlético Mineiro and Fluminense and Corinthians. I mean, how? I mean, Santos, they pride themselves. We're never relegated. I mean, the relegation fear is coming forward, more closer and closer. And I don't know, like
And I,
Santos looking terrible.
I'm going to come at this from a little bit of an uneducated guess because obviously, I only know Santos in the mythology with Pele and all that. Is it a problem for Santos where like they've lived too much in the past, so they don't take enough chances as a club to get better, to stay with the times? And is it kind of the reason why they're stuck where they're at?
I, I think that Santos is kind of the Green Bay Packers. They are they look like a big market team, but they're a small market. Santos is not a capital. Santos is a city in the beach, but it's like an average size. Like I want to confirm. The I don't think it's like a high populated city. Check it, but 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 I feel like Santos has so much trouble with 433,000 people live in Santos, so it's a small market compared to like São Paulo, Corinthians, Palmeiras, in the capital of São Paulo, Flamengo, but
Is
they
it just
are.
like a suburb of Sao Paulo, essentially, like right there on the beach?
Yeah, they're like 45 minutes away from São Paulo and the beach. But they are kind of like a small market. They behave like a small market team. So that's the problem. I feel like they behave like a small market team, and they don't. And they had so much good sales and Robinho, Neymar, but they couldn't manage their money, and now they are in a lot of debt, and they have to pay the debts, and their roster is like a lot of really young players and washed up players, and like it's a terrible situation for Santos.
I mean, it just sounds like you got to blow it up, but like, unfortunately, like in American sports, you can't just blow it up and then get the next big player in the draft. I mean, it's an organizational change that you're going to have to start at the youth academy to do that. Anyway, I think we have lost Gus here momentarily. He's having some issues with his internet connection. So, as he said, Sao Paulo, I think we have you back.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, in Brazilian soccer, we can't just reset and kind of have like a rebuilding year because you have the worries of relegation and you don't want to go to second division. Like Santos takes so much pride of never being relegated, but we'll see and it'll be humiliating for the third straight year. Not making to the playoffs in the state championship is humiliating. It's something unheard of for a big team like Santos. It's just like Santos fans are depressed right now. They're worried, depressed, and they don't see a hope coming forward. Corinthians draw in versus Portuguesa. The game was in Brasilia because Portuguese sold their home field. This game, the game should have been in Sao Paulo, but they sold to like a big group, so tell this to Corinthians fans in Brazil. So even though Portuguesa was the home team, 95% of the crowd was Corinthians fans, but in the end they got a draw, so it was a good result. So they got the money from for this game would be way higher than the game in the actual stadium, and they got the draw. So it was a good result for Portuguesa, not so much good for Corinthians. Is the question? Corinthians is a lion at home. He's really good. On the road, terrible, terrible. So Corinthians like one team in their stadium, other team on the road. And São Paulo, as I said, defeat Santos 3-1. Question marks. Rogério still haven't found his starting 11. A lot of teams in Palmeiras win, not constantly, but got the win 1-0 versus us. The updates Brazilian soccer this week and Brazilian sports because we talked about the basketball tournaments for sport and for the time podcast, right?
Right. I guess you're still definitely having some connectivity issues there. but I think I'm hearing fragments of the theme. So I think that is going to do it here for episode 64 of Two Countries, Two Americas All Sports. Unfortunately, the internet not cooperating with us here at the end, but it's all good. Obviously, we are now at the end of another football season in the United States, but there are still so many sports. We've got March Madness coming, NASCAR starting this weekend. We've got baseball coming up soon, and we're getting into the meat of the Brazilian soccer season. So stick with us as we continue to press on it in the annual rotation that is the sports calendar. For Gustavo Tomazeli down in Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, I am Nicholas Hill in Chattanooga, Tennessee, the United States, and you are watching/listening to Two Countries, Two Americas All Sports, the only sports podcast discussing American and Brazilian sports. Have a good one and enjoy your Valentine's Day.